Hi, good afternoon. Greetings from Yerushalayim. One of the neat things about being in Israel this time of this year is that the Parshiot, the Torah portions, are 1 week ahead in Israel. This is all the way back from the eighth day of Pesach, which we observed in Chicago and Chutz La'aretz, but was just a regular Shabbat in Israel, so they moved one Parsha ahead. They'll stay ahead for a few more weeks. So last Shabbat was Parashat Balak in Israel, and I heard all sorts of great Divrei Torah and ideas that were shared about the parsha, and now I get to tell them to you because that's the parsha that you guys are going to read in shul tomorrow. So I'll share two ideas I heard, and you can find some sources on the Sefaria sheet. First is just that the fear that Bilam and is responding to, that Balak sends messages to Bilam. He describes and he says. I describe Hine Am Yatzam Mitzrayim. This nation came out of Egypt. Hine Kisat Ein Haaretz. They are hides the earth from view. Like there's so many of them. They're swarming. That they hide the earth. And that language Kisa et Ein Haaretz is a literal quote from it's an echo of the book of Exodus chapter 10, where the locusts, the plague of locusts, is described. Kisat Ein Haaretz. That very same phrase is used. And so Bilam is hearing this report from Balak, is telling Bilam that the Israelites are a literal plague, okay, or that's the experience. What's interesting is that just a few weeks ago we read about the spies who thought of themselves, depicted themselves as chagavim, as grasshoppers. So it's sort of interesting, change in perspective that everyone's agreeing that they see themselves as insects, but actually their enemies, see them as this swarm of locusts that's terrifying, whereas they saw themselves as being weak and small and insignificant. So it's a really interesting example of just how a change in perspective can really be crucial, and if you see yourself as small, you could actually be perceived as much more intimidating than you realize. And that gets us to the next idea that I heard. This is from the first idea I heard in shul Shabbat morning. It wasn't the rabbi who spoke. I don't know the guy's name. I thought it was a very interesting idea though. So anonymous guy who spoke last Shabbat morning. This is your idea. This next idea is Rabbi Shlomo Dov Rosen, who is the rabbi at Yakar, beautiful shul in South Yerushalayim, and he sort of mentions the Gemara in Bava Batra that depicts this whole parsha, the story of Bilam, as being like almost like a separate book, sort of just sunk there, deposited in the midst of Sefer Midbar, because the Gemara in Bava Batra says, Moshe wrote the Torah, and Moshe also wrote down this story of Balak and Bilam, as though it were a separate book that's incorporated into the Torah, also written by Moshe, but really a separate book. And indeed, it's an entirely different perspective that's shared in this parasha. The Israelites are really only described, almost no exceptions, in the third person, and we get this entirely outsider's view. So what's it doing in our Torah? And Rabbi Rosen said that it's actually a very important life lesson to realize that there are other people in the world, and those other people experience us, and they respond to us, and they talk about us to each other without our involvement, without our knowledge that we're here in the world, we impact, other people exist in the world, we have impact on those other people, and they respond to us. And that's like a really important lesson in growing up that the Israelites had to learn before we could enter into Eretz Yisrael, that we're not alone in this world. There are other people, they respond to us, they react to us. Tosfot says this whole episode, this whole attempt to curse, was an act of self-defense on the part of Balak, and that's also like part of this dynamic of other people existing in the world aside from us, and that's again part of growing up, and that's also why this story is there in the Torah. He closed with a really beautiful, I found a very evocative statement. He said, "There's some people who only know how to sing by themselves, and there's some people who get others to sing with them, and then there are others who realize that no, like true singing is only when it's multiple voices in harmony sing together." And that's the lesson of Balak and Bilam that we had to learn before entering Eretz Yisrael. We exist with others, and we're here to interact with others and to be with others, and we have to realize that we have an effect on them, and they respond to us and talk about us, and it can be good ways or bad ways, but we need to sort of always have that in mind. If everything works well, I also have a little video I took at the at the Jerusalem Aquarium of a locust. They had a display of some insects too at the aquarium, so I took a video of a locust, so you can get to see what it looks like. Kisea at Ein Haaretz, little grasshopper, little chagav, but many of them can have a big impact. So hopefully I'll add that to the source sheet as well. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom. Coming back to Chicago in a few days, and looking forward to seeing you all in person and hearing how your summer has been. All right, best wishes to you all.